I saw a tweet, a post by you recently. Somebody had pointed out, well, it's the Jews that killed Jesus. And your reply was, yes, and it was the Romans that killed Caesar.
There are numerous cases in history where a particular act occurs, and yet no one would draw the conclusion that they are drawing in the Jewish case. No one would say, for example, America killed Abraham Lincoln. That would make no sense. Americans killed Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, it was in fact a conspiracy of Americans who did that. But on the other hand, there were lots of people on the other side. There was certainly no unanimity that Americans want to get rid of Abraham Lincoln and conspired together to do it. So the point I'm getting at is, in the case of Jesus, there was a cabal of high priests, including, of course, Caiaphas, the high priest, and they viewed Jesus as a political threat, perhaps a threat in other ways. And so they motivated a faction and they stirred up the crowd to turn against Jesus. But guess what? There were lots of people who were Jesus's followers and his disciples. And after his death, these are people who went abroad. Well, they went throughout the land and lands preaching the gospel. They became, in a sense, the first followers of Jesus. I thought it's interesting that even the great apostle to the Gentiles, namely Paul, when you actually read about Paul going over to Asia Minor or going through Greece, it's striking to me that he's normally going to synagogues, which means that he is preaching in Jewish precincts, typically to an audience that is made up of Jews and Gentiles both. It would make no sense to say generically that the Jews did it. The reason I use the example of Caesar is this. There was one faction led by Cassius and Brutus that killed Caesar. There was another faction led by Mark Antony and Octavian who sought to avenge Caesar's death. And just like the apostles, they took up Caesar's cause. So again, if anyone were to say the Romans killed Caesar, people would look at you like that is an idiotic thing to say, and yet they don't think it's idiotic to say in the specific context of Jesus.